Good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our discussions for today. Our topic is from climate change to sports, making gender equality a priority. When we look to gender equality, we've come a long way and we've made progress. It shouldn't be one man's action or one woman's action or one company or one organization who should take leadership and take this on their own. It should be a big action for all. It should be holistic. And we should look at ways in which to ensure that we make more improvement on what we have achieved so far. Natalie from Avon. Avon has been at the forefront of gender equality efforts for a while, tackling various areas at the same time, from women's health to gender-based violence, women's entrepreneurship and leadership. What has motivated you to take such a holistic look, and how did you decide on the different priorities? What do you think is the greatest challenge that remains to truly move the needle for women and girls?
Thank you. It's great to be here, and priorities is always really challenging. And Avon was founded over 135 years ago. So this was before women had the right to vote. We set up a business based on what we now recognize as female entrepreneurship. Essentially, it is about lowering the barriers to economic participation for women. And we know that there is such an important link between economic participation and women's agency and broader equality and empowerment. Entrepreneurship and unlocking entrepreneurship is key for us. Essentially, we stand for women. We stand about giving them a choice and a voice. And in terms of health, we focus on breast cancer. It's women's number one health concern. And then we also focus a good deal of our efforts on tackling gender-based violence. So gender-based violence impacts 1 in 3 women worldwide, and that's just physical and sexual violence. Other forms of violence are much more insidious and difficult to track. So whether it's financial control, whether it's verbal abuse. So we believe there's a really important role that we can play to firstly raise awareness of gender-based violence. So it's hidden behind closed doors often. It's shrouded in this wall of silence. So we're able to use our network, the power of the millions of representatives and all of the social media contacts and community contacts they have, to firstly raise awareness of the issue, to call it out, but also to signpost help. So we've donated over $80 million to NGOs who are there providing direct support services to women who need help to rebuild their lives after they've directly been impacted. COVID has widened the equality gap across everything, and I think there's still sometimes a danger that we think we've come further than we really have. I'm sitting here in the UK where we still have more male executive CEOs in the FTSE 350 by the name of Peter than we do female CEOs. We call it the Peter problem. And I think we sometimes think that we've come further than we really have.
Okay, I have a question now that I want to put to Graciela. Your organization, CONMEBOL, has been participating in the Target Gender Equality Initiative of the UN Global Compact in Paraguay these past years. And yours is the first sports-related association engaged in this program. What made you decide to prioritize gender at this point? And what are your plans with regards to target setting for women's leadership?
Thank you for having me here, and thank you for the question, Florence. Well, as of 2016, CONMEBOL set itself as one of its main objectives to advance towards gender equality in football, even though we have a whole world that we needed to transform when we just started here. Perhaps one of the most exclusive areas with respect to women in Latin American societies is gender equity. And this work represents a historic reparation that we believe we're doing. We at CONMEBOL have focused on the inclusion of women in two different dimensions, on and off the field, through our three pillars, which includes strengthening tournaments, training our talent, and positioning and visibility of our talent. When we talk about off the field and we talk about institutional position, there's still a lot more to be done, as Natalie's mentioned, definitely, but I believe that we're definitely in the right track. Inside the institution, we have more than 40% of the employees are women. And as I mentioned before, more than 25% of the executive committee are women within CONMEBOL. And on the field, growing and investing in women's football in South America is our main point. Improving the quality of women's tournaments, as we can mean broadcasting rights, better quality fields, hotels, creating spaces for young girls to play, which was not available in the past. And throughout all this, female football players are participating in capacity building workshops to ensure that we develop them, not just as athletes, but as leaders within the sports. So we need to keep investing and growing the discipline so that we inspire young women and girls all over South America that are playing and working, that they can believe that playing and working in football is possible for them. About the future,
that is a big game changer for women and girls. And I like the idea that your organization has incentivized and giving awards or rewards to encourage more women to be engaged in football. It sets the ball in motion for others who can then use that as the way forward. All right, Natalie, Avon, your company has been collaborating with governments and other stakeholders. What role do you believe companies can and should play to advocate for breaking down of legal barriers for gender equality?
Thanks for the question. And we believe that business should be a force for good, but we can't do it on our own. And I was so struck listening to Graziella that to really tackle gender equality, to really make a difference, we have got to overturn cultural norms that have been embedded for centuries and centuries and centuries. And that's why it's really important that across the board, whether it's sport, whether it's around business, whether it's partnering with institutions, with NGOs, that we're all moving in that same direction. We work closely with organizations who we know can help us to deliver the change. So very simply at where we're tackling gender-based violence, we have a network of NGOs now across the world who are looking at how do we make sure the right laws are in place? How do we then enforce those laws, which is a really big issue? How do we help women to get the support that they need? How do we join up all of the services so that we can get there? But we're also lucky at Avon that we have the power to mobilize. We're seeing it right now in Central and Eastern Europe, where we have a network of organizations of people who are standing up to make a difference, to make donations to people who are impacted by the crisis in Ukraine. In terms of playing a leadership role in the business community, we can encourage others, talk about what we're doing and encourage others to follow the same path. So whether that's our gender equality commitments in terms of equal pay, equal representation, representation of underrepresented groups.
Thank you. Graciela, the world of sports is dominated by stereotypes. And as a woman in the football sector, it becomes part and parcel of your career. What role do you believe organizations, as well as each and every one of us, has to tackle stereotypes across all aspects of life and pave a road free of judgments from the next generation of female leaders?
Well, indeed, Florence, I truly believe that stereotypes are one of the biggest obstacles to paving the way of a woman in the world of football. Stereotypes, prejudices, slow down and discourage, definitely. And sports, I think, are a societal area that faces one of the critical displays of gender stereotyping and discrimination. And unfortunately, football does not escape its gaps. My personal experience back in many years ago, 1966, 1967, being the youngest of a family, of a family of six, I was born after my brother. So I played football, like, it was part of my life. When I joined school, in preschool and first grade, we started, we formed a team, a girls' team. But we were only able to play for a week or something, a week and a half, because afterwards the parents didn't think that was appropriate for the girls to play. So that goes back, and that's the stigmas and the stereotypes that we need to tackle. And at CONMEBOL, we have an important role in confronting stereotypes, and we do that by empowering women and girls in developing countries. Actually, we're tackling these stereotypes through visibility, development, and initiatives for gender equality. I don't know if you know, but for example, Brazil, it was illegal for women to play football up until 1983. That's only 50 years ago. And this definitely affected the growth and development of women's football in the whole South American region. Organizations need to step up and highlight some of the bright female talents in the sport. And as Natalie mentioned, we need to have role models. Now we have some of the best foot players in the world coming from South America. We have Dana Castellanos from Venezuela. We have Formiga, and she's from Brazil. Marta Vieira da Silva from Brazil, and Christian Endler from Chile. And those are the role models that we need to show, we need to give them visibility. So in this sense, I truly believe that football and all sports can and should play an important role, because we can transmit positive values such as teamwork, respect, solidarity.
Graciela, thank you for those very, very good comments and insights on what your organization and what sport can do in terms of the stereotypes that are still around. Natalie, one of the key messages, and a number of the comments you made at the start of our conversation, one of the key messages that you often use, or Avon use, is to give women a voice. To give women a voice. However, we all know that within the group of women, there are some that are even further left behind, such as Black women or women with disabilities. How do you think companies can apply an intersectional lens to their gender equality activities?
Well, I think at a time when the world's feeling increasingly polarized, it's really important that we double down on our efforts around inclusion. So at Avon, we strongly believe in being open to all. And I think actually picking up on what Graziella was talking about in terms of stereotypes, for us at Avon, we've got a really important role to play in making sure we're inclusive, not just in our hiring policies, but actually also in terms of how we are portraying our own customers and our representatives. So I'm really proud that we've done a lot of work with women's football in Latin America, here in the UK, in Turkey, sponsoring women's teams. In many cases, we're the first to do so, and we're seeing amazing change there. So I think that's about tackling those harmful stereotypes. And even for us as a beauty company, it's really important when we are showing our communities, when we're showing our products, that we do so in a way that is inclusive, whether that is demographic, age, color, it's ability. It's absolutely vital that we are as inclusive as we can be. That's a really interesting point for us at the moment is how do we make sure that whilst we're focusing on women, we're also inclusive to all groups. 95% of our customers and our representatives identify as women, but we also want to make sure that we are inclusive and open to all, regardless of your intersectionality within the female gender, but also in terms of making sure that we're bringing everybody on the journey. And I think it's really important, particularly when we're talking about gender equality, that we're really careful about even conversations like this one, where women are talking to women about women. I have lost count of how many times I've sat on panels or been in conference rooms where women are talking to each other about this. And it's really important that we don't alienate the other half of the population and the non-binary people in between who all need to be part of this journey.
That's true. Inclusiveness and allowing others around you to be part and parcel of this fight, this journey, this challenge, and respecting their views and their position on the matter is also key. Graciela, I asked this question. Another group of people often left behind is that of Indigenous women. So could you share some insight in your country, Paraguay, especially the role of Indigenous women and the importance? Nevertheless, they often hold the innovation and solutions needed to tackle climate change. What do you think organizations can and should do to empower all women as change makers?
And I wouldn't like to sound too blunt, but I truly believe that women can be the great factor of change in today's society. In South America, Florence and Natalie, we have is a demographically diverse continent as many others. But this diversity, I think the diversity that we have in South America is one of our strengths. We are Black, we are Indigenous, we're women, we're men, we're rich, we're poor. We can learn from streets or the university. We're dancers, we're players, we are free to love who we love. I mean, that's South America. Including intersectional identities is something that we strive and actively engage constantly in every level of football in our institution. And specifically for Indigenous people, they are part of the football community, and we have tremendous examples on how we include the Indigenous people in football. So, and as I mentioned, the Ligas de Desarrollo are the leagues of development and are tournaments that are played within all of the, inside of the 10 communities of each country, and represents the rich diversity of South America, where players will travel from all over the continent to play their passion. We empower women and change makers with access to education, planning, and giving them the possibility to obtain additional resources. We're giving them the chance to achieve career goals with fewer health issues, better nutrition, and financial stability for their families. Football is a visibility platform for messages to change, to reverberate all throughout the continent. And that definitely includes climate change, Florence. So I believe that organizations, whether their nature, must commit themselves to the task preserving nature and reversing the damage already caused. Women can offer different perspectives and approaches to solving the crisis, and perhaps with greatest sensitivity or with a spirit of dialogue rather than confrontation.
Thank you for those comments. Natalie, it's not on the question here, but I want to hear some views from you. What is Avon's position of view on climate change and gender?
Thanks for asking. And one of the things I was reflecting on again this morning, listening to Graziella and also seeing many of the images of what's happening over in Central and Eastern Europe is the lack of female representation as part of the leadership here is consistently an issue. And I think there's a very clear link between women and climate. For Avon, we're looking at women to be part of the solution. So we already know that where women are running businesses, where women are harvesting fields for the product, the ingredients that may go into our products, those businesses tend to be, whether it's a small or a large enterprise, tend to have a lower carbon footprint, tend to be kinder to the planet and their communities. So I think female leadership here has a really important role to play, whether that's in terms of managing organizations or managing local communities. And essentially all of this is linked. The link between people and planet and equality are all linked here. And I think kind of one of the things I will take away is just this idea of women as change makers. We really believe in the ripple effect that women can have.
Excellent. Women are change makers. There's a saying also that when you educate a young girl, you're educating a family, and that family is going to educate the country. And that is change, and that's the way forward. And ladies, I want to sincerely thank you for your very open and frank comments on our topic on climate change to sports, making gender equality a priority, and what each of us feel that should be done. And also, giving credit to what has already been done in this last couple of decades. And we look forward to more engagement, to, I think, strategies and planning around how the conversations on gender equality can continue to be rippling rather than stagnant and seen as obstacles. It should be forward-looking. Things like stereotypes, leaving other people behind, and so on. We should reach out and make it as a holistic approach and be women. Hold each other's hand and walk forward. So I end our discussions here. I thank you once again for your time. And I look forward to seeing this on the 15th of March. And as we celebrate World Women's Day, the international recognition of women as important players today and forever. Thank you.